Diego Pavia is locked in as the starter, but the true battle this spring will be for quarterback 2.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So, baseball season kicks off in the desert on the MLB network. The rotation has been set, and the Vandyboys are ready for a big season. Basketball showed toughness and grit. They showed they belong, but what will it take to continue? But first, with spring practice right around the corner, dates have not been completely set. But we look at the future of the quarterback room. Diego Pavia is firmly entrenched as the starter for 2025. We know that. But the real battle is going to be in the spring for who's going to be QB2. Or in better terms, who's going to be in the driver's seat for that vaunted QB1 position in 2026. And who's on their way out. Because somebody, maybe two people have got to transfer. So let's kind of look. But let's start with Diego Pavia first, okay? And this is where this quarterback position gets a little interesting because, Diego Pavia, I think, is going to be, with his last year of eligibility, yeah, he's going to be the baller. Yeah, he's going to be the unequivocal starter, but he's also going to have to kind of take on a more of a mentorship role now that everything is established. I think everybody that's on campus now has been established in Tim Beck's offense. So now I think Diego Pavia is going to kind of take on not only the role of the starter, but I think since he knows that he's gone after this year, he's going to try to get the next guys ready. He's going to try to provide all the wisdom, all the support, everything that all these guys need before he goes. And so this is going to be an interesting season for Diego because, hey, does he leave it all out there? Does he play with reckless abandon? Does he know, hey, I'm probably not going to be on an NFL roster? If I am, I'm probably going to be Taysom Hill. I may have to try a different position, kind of like what Julian Edelman did, who was a similar style quarterback at Kent State, ended up being a great wide receiver for the New England Patriots, and now a member of the media. But what's the future hold for Diego Pavia? What is this like for him? So, starting with him. He's got to put some tape out there. He's got to put some things out there for the NFL because he's going to try. I don't know how successful he'll be, but he's got to try. So this is going to be a good pivotal year for him. But what's behind him? Who's going to win the QB2 job? And that's the question that we got to answer because with Pavia getting banged up, with Pavia playing the way he plays, I think it's important to have a quality backup that's pretty similar and can give you a similar impact. I mean, you're not going to be able to totally replicate Diego Pavia, and that's normal. But who's going to play that backup role when Pavia gets banged up, or let's say they're in a blowout and you want to get some guys some work? Like I think last year with Nate Johnson, they felt okay with him, but you could tell when he came in, they just weren't comfortable unleashing him. And I think that caused them to rush Diego Pavia back because I'm not sure Diego Pavia should have played against South Carolina. I'm not sure that there's some things where he shouldn't have done because I felt like he had to rush back because they just felt like they didn't have anything behind him. That's kind of the sense that I got from the way they handled the quarterback position, and some of that could have just been Diego Pavia going into the injury tent and saying, "Hey, screw you guys. I'm not coming out of this game." And that wouldn't surprise me either. But I think part of that, them not being able to tell him no is the fact that, hey, maybe Nate Johnson isn't what we think he is. So, but I think their role now, they're not rolling out a new offense. They're not trying to get everybody up to speed. They have everybody in camp now. They're not, outside of a small handful of guys that are coming in the summer. Most of the difference makers are going to be in spring practice now, so they can have some legit competition and they can do some legitimate things as far as advancing to the next level. So I think they're going to get a better. So what I mean by that is I think they're going to get a better evaluation of who can actually play within this offense, because the current depth chart as it stands, and I think it's just a continuation of last year's depth chart minus Nate Johnson, is Drew Dickey he comes in as your backup. He's a redshirt junior. Blaise Berlowitz, Jeremy St. Hilaire, Whit Muschamp, and then of course Jack Edwards when he rolls in. Jack Elliott. He'll enroll in June. He'll just kind of come in at the bottom of that depth chart, but. This is going to be interesting. Like I said, you have some guys. You have a really, really heavy room, and a lot of guys that can play. And you have three guys that you're not sure what to do with, and that's kind of the enigma here. Like Drew Dickey, you kind of know what he is. He can move a little bit. He's really good at everything, but not great necessarily at anything either. He's kind of like your solid backup guy, right? Well, you got Berlowitz, St. Hilaire, and Muschamp, I think that's the problem you got to solve. You got to figure out which one is which, okay? Because with the offensive line being as, just as volatile it's just a volatile position by nature. Like it's tough. It's tough to play offensive line in the SEC because you have so many good defenses, and defenses kind of do their thing. So it's just naturally tough to play offensive line in this league when you don't have a ton of depth and you don't have guys that have played together a lot. It's good, it's tough to really tell what kind of protection you're going to get. So, you need a mobile guy back there. That's what Pavia gives you. That's what St. Hilaire gives you. And that's what Jack Elliott's going to give you. You need somebody back there that can move. You need somebody back there that's a true dual threat. Tim Beck wants to run. He wants to run with a quarterback. So you need somebody that can do that. And, I think when you look at and evaluate these quarterbacks, St. Hilaire is somebody that, he's raw, and you could tell that he's raw with some of the stuff he did in high school at Macaulay. But, I think, when you look at his skill set, he's big, he's smooth, and he can make some plays. He's probably the most physically gifted quarterback that's on this roster. And I think if the rest of it kind of catches up with him, this could be your guy. This could be the guy coming in next year going, okay, we feel really good about this quarterback position. We feel really good about Jeremy St. Hilaire. We don't necessarily need to go to the portal, right? He can force Vandy to not have to go to the portal. Same with Jack Elliott, who they're saying is a Diego Pavia clone, which I don't know if they're just saying that because, teams are like, hey, this is going to be the next blah, blah, blah. And they just say that about every recruit. But, just given the way he plays, he kind of plays with that moxie. But we'll see kind of what Jeremy St. Hilaire has from a leadership standpoint, what he has from, an intangible standpoint. That's going to be the biggest thing for him. Can he play the quarterback position in the SEC? Can he grasp everything you need to be able to play this position? And that goes beyond physical talent. Blaise Berlowitz, again, he's somebody that knows this offense. He's got that part of it. I think he's kind of, he kind of proved himself that to this offensive staff that he can do it, but I think he's not quite as mobile as the other guys, and you're not sure if it works here. Basically, you're not sure with this volatile offensive line. You're not sure with the amount of pressure that they get in this league. You're just not sure what you're going to get with him. And again, he has a lot of talent himself, and if he hits the portal, he can go somewhere and make a difference. But I just think that for him, watching his limited reps at New Mexico State, I don't know if he's a full scheme fit for what they're doing or what they want to do. And with some of the other guys that got recruited, he may get usurped by those guys. And I just don't know about Berlowitz. I think he's really good. I think any one of these guys could start. I think any one of these guys could make a difference. But when you're looking at Berlowitz, I think they see a lot more. I think they're going to see a lot more potential in Jamie St. Hilaire. And if it comes down to a decision, do you keep St. Hilaire or do you keep Berlowitz? I think you go St. Hilaire because I think physically he's more gifted than Berlowitz, and you can teach him. You can teach him the mental aspects of the game. So that's something that is in consideration here. And Berlowitz, unfortunately, might be facing that type of scenario. And then, of course, you have Whit Muschamp, who is, again, I don't know if his skill set, he's a safe bet. He's somebody that if you have room, you can kind of see where he develops, but he may kind of see the writing on the wall as far as scheme and as far as his fit and as far as kind of what he's going to look like in this offense. And he may decide, hey, this is not the right fit for me, or I need somewhere that's going to keep me in the pocket more. And that, because that's kind of more of he's more of a polished passing style quarterback. And that doesn't really, unless Tim Beck changes his scheme, which he can be a chameleon to a certain degree. But I think if you're looking for a quarterback that's going to lead a charge and a more running style of offense, I don't know that Will Muschamp. I don't know that Will Muschamp can play. No, I don't know that Whit Muschamp can play that position. But he's a better quarterback. I think he's a better overall quarterback at this moment. I think he's more polished. And I think they're going to give that a chance and just kind of see what he develops and what he looks like. And I think that could go in his favor. But again, would not shock me to see him transfer either. Maybe he looks for a better situation that fits his skill set. As far as fit wise, St. Hilaire out of those three is probably the best fit with his skill set. But quarterback that can pass the ball and can take care of the ball and can get the ball down the field, it's never a bad fit to have that. So this competition is going to be ridiculous, and I wonder if they're going to go live here. And then you have Jack Elliott as well, Drew Dickey. What's going to happen with Drew Dickey? What happens there? Does he stick around? Does he get one more year so he can get his degree and then get out? What does he, and get out and grad transfer? What does he do? Does he stick around? Is he the potential quarterback one of the future? Is it one of those deals where if he beats everybody out, maybe they look to the portal next year? Where does Drew Dickey fit into this whole thing? He won the backup job last year. He was probably, if they needed a long-term backup, he was going to be the guy. I don't think they were ever going to go to Nate Johnson and more than just a gadget guy. I think Drew Dickey would have been the long-term backup. They had a unique situation where he was technically on the depth chart quarterback 3, but he was probably more of the true backup than Nate Johnson was. And if Pavia had a serious injury, they probably would have looked at Dickey to come in and be the starter in place of Pavia if there was any time to be missed for Pavia. So this is going to be an interesting race. Like I said, this is going to be one of those scenarios, and I've probably talked way too long about it, but this is going to be one of those scenarios where it's going to come down to the evaluation of it. And I'm looking forward to reading the reports day in and day out. I think they're going to have some really good competition periods for these guys, but it's going to come down to this: who fits the scheme the best, who leads the team the best, and they will modify however they need to modify if Whit Muschamp seems to get the most out of the guys, or if Jeremy St. Hilaire ends up, hey, he's learned a ton throughout the course of the season playing scout team. Maybe he's the best. If he ends up being the best fit, so be it. If Drew Dickey beats them all out, it's gonna come down to, what do they need to do to find the best fit for the personnel and then tailor the offense to that person. That's going to be what's going to happen here. But But anyway, the basketball team is it was an encouraging loss. I don't want to say moral victory, but like it was a tough loss. It was one of those losses where like the score looked bad, but it was just a very encouraging loss. We'll talk about that next. All right, looking at FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on that than FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you missed the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth-quarter comeback, you can stay in on the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. So I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting. Whether I'm backing my team for a late-game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch three, I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. So right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. So make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. We appreciate everything that you guys do, especially you everydayers. Can't say enough about that. If you need a second listen, check out Locked On SEC. Chris Gordy does a phenomenal job. The whole conference network of shows is amazing. Locked On Auburn with Zach Blackerby, Locked On Ole Miss with Stephen Willis, Locked On Mizzou with John Miller, Locked On Texas with Jonathan Davis, Locked On Bulldogs with Clint Shamblin. All those shows, just the whole list. Lance Dahl with Kentucky. I'm gonna make it my life's mission to get him to be a football guy, and I'm guessing he's going to do the same for basketball for me. So, but all incredible shows you should go look at. You should go check those out. But speaking of basketball, it was a tough loss. You go down by what was it, 14 points, 80 to 68. Something like that. And it's easy to be discouraged by that. It's easy to say, okay, this team is back to being whatever. But, I think I was perusing 24/7. I was perusing Rivals just to kind of get an idea of what the buzz is with Vandy and see what's going on here. And Joey Dwyer, I think, had a good point. And saying that, sometimes the #1 team, they do the unthinkable. They play like the #1 team in the country. And so it's, sometimes that happens, right? And when you're a team that's growing, when you're a team that I can't repeat this enough, they're a team that just met each other in June, at the beginning of June, when you could first practice as a team. Like, this team was not assembled prior to that. Coaching, you get Mark Byington, you get a mass exodus to the portal into the wherever, and you get all these people leaving. You have nobody left, and you get everybody from the portal. You get 15 guys from the portal. They've all never met. Well, they probably met on visits, but like that doesn't really count. They've never really played basketball against each other, or with each other, or anything. And they come together, and this is the result you get. They're projected to be a 10 seed in the NCAA tournament by Joe Lunardi. I think anywhere from a 10 seed to a 12 seed, hell, I don't care if they're a 16 seed. Just get them in the dance, And that's impressive. Like, for Mark Byington, he's got to be, like, if that happens, it's got to be considered for Coach of the Year. It's got to be. Because that is an amazing coaching job. That is an amazing turnaround. This team won 9 games last year. They won 9 games within their first 10. It took them 10 games to win 9. That's amazing, right? That's a really good start. That's really good coaching. That's really good setting the culture. And I think, they're starting to kind of get it with NIL. And, when they start to look at it and, next year and evaluate, they can, now that they got the roster set, they don't have to pay 15 guys from the NIL. They can kind of keep some guys around and then use some money for maybe a bigger star. literally and figuratively. They could, get a 3-point shooter. Like they can get a couple of pieces to kind of bolster what this roster is and what this roster needs to go to that next level, to maybe not be a 10 seed, and maybe be a 7 seed or a 6 seed, or, somebody that's competing legitimately in the SEC for conference titles and NCAA, high NCAA seeds. And so that's just kind of where we're at as a program. And that's amazing. Like this loss, even though it was a loss, they've got 2 top 10 wins. They've been able to hold serve at home, which bad teams don't win anywhere, as evidenced by last year's team. They just found glorious ways to lose. But I think this season is characterized by toughness and grit. They play everybody, like they played Florida tough on the road. They just couldn't seem to get over the hump. They can't, there's things about this team, there's obvious weaknesses within and obvious flaws within the game. And some of it is just, these guys just haven't really had a ton of time playing with each other as teammates. And they haven't really had as much, a whole lot of time and kind of really digesting really what Mark Byington wants to do. And I think some of that mentality, they get very impatient. And when they start launching threes, that's very uncharacteristic of this team. That's not their identity. They're usually more reserved as far as taking shots, but they, against Auburn, I think they were nervous and felt like they had to hit 3 after 3 after 3, and they took a lot of them. So, but this team has shown a lot. This team has shown a tremendous amount of grit. This team has shown that, hey, we can do this. We can win with defense. I was about to say defense and special teams, but there is no special teams in basketball. But they can win with defense. They can win running the floor. They can win getting to the rim. They can win even a little bit. They can win a little bit in the paint. Like they play bigger than they are, which is good. And when they can do that, that's usually when they're more successful. There's some teams that it doesn't matter. You're never going to beat them in the paint. But Auburn showed that, they were having a little trouble with Jalen Carey and Devin McLaughlin down low in the paint. And then Alex Hemingway, I'm hearing he's close to returning. He's the sharpshooter, and he's been out of the lineup. So maybe he comes in, maybe he's the sharpshooter. Maybe he's the guy you kick it over to and get some 3-point buckets. Even if he plays like 15 minutes, if he can hit 5 threes in those 15 minutes, that's going to be huge, right? And that's going to force other teams, or not really force, but that's going to allow Vandy to say, hey, we don't have to launch 3. We don't have to jack up threes. We got him. We'll put him in for a 2-3 minute stretch, let him launch 2 or 3 threes, let him hit those, and then we'll take him out, and then we'll run the floor, put him back in for another couple of minutes, let him hit a couple of threes, and really kind of get the momentum going, and then we'll feed the guys inside and we'll get to the rim. So anyway, I just thought ahead of their next matchup this Saturday, and we'll preview more of that on the next episode. But this is exciting. This is exciting stuff. But speaking of being excited, you should get excited because baseball is back. The Vandyboys are kicking off the season in the MLB. I'll get the name right when we come back. But it's they're going to the desert. They're going to be on the MLB network. That can never be a bad thing. So we'll talk about that next. All right, welcome back. Wrapping up the show here, Locked On Vandy. Follow us at Locked On Vandy on all social media platforms. And then the link tree is in my social media bio, linktree.com/Locked On Vandy. So make sure you check that out. But Vandy has got invited. They're playing in the MLB Play Ball Desert Invitational, which it marks as the opening weekend of their season. The rotation has been set. The weekend rotation has been set. Friday is J.D. Thompson. He kicks off the season, so no pressure there. And then Saturday is the sophomore lefty Ethan McIlvain, who is going to be shaking off a little rust. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see how he comes out and to see just how long he can go and just see if he can kind of push back or push through some of that rust that he had in some of the scrimmages. And then that'll be against Nebraska. And then Cody Boker will start against UC Irvine on Sunday. He's the transfer coming in from Georgetown. He's the guy he's been probably one of the more impressive guys lighting it up in the scrimmages this preseason. So this will be kind of fun. You know, Thompson, he finished last year as the Sunday starter. He had a 5-2 record, 4.15 ERA. He steps up in the rotation. Bryce Cunningham, Devin Futrell, and Carter Holton all left. And they left those big voids. And so J.D. Thompson was a midweek guy, ended up being a Sunday guy towards the end of the season. I think he made 7 starts in that role. And he was outstanding throughout the course of the season. He became kind of that consistent rock in a very, again, very just topsy-turvy roller coaster type situation in the rotation that was Vandy baseball. So he was all SEC second team preseason. He was also third team All-American by D1 baseball. And he, like I said, he was the most, and even Tim Corbin said he became one of the most reliable starters last year. He's just a dog, right? McIlvain has the highest upside, so he could end up being the best pitcher on this staff. He made 4 starts and 11 appearances. And he went down. He had, when you have a bad back as a pitcher, it's never fun. That's a tough injury to have. And it just nags you. And the back, like the lower back, the hamstrings, the calves, the quads, anytime you get any sort of injuries to those, it's just gonna eat at you all year long, and there's just nothing you can do about it, and that's frustrating. So I know he's frustrated. I know he's hoping to get some innings in and really kind of get some positive things going. But he was a reliever mostly and midweek starter towards the end, and in spots when he was healthy. But like I said, he has a ton of talent, and he's somebody that can really make a huge jump. And then Boker, he was a 2A player at Georgetown, but he's going to pitch exclusively at Vanderbilt. He was 5-1 with a 3.0 ERA last season in the Big East, and he's somebody that has really dynamic stuff. And looking forward to seeing what he can do in the best conference in all the land. So this is going to be exciting for Vandy. They have, I feel really good about these 3 guys. I think competitively, these guys had to. They're probably not as talented as the 3 that are leaving, but I think these guys had to scratch and claw and kind of actually pitch their way into these spots, right, and into the positions they're in, because what pitchers have become in college baseball, especially, are throwers, especially the righties. Like, everyone just wants to throw. And that's not what pitching is. Pitching is a chess match. Pitching is understanding situations, setting up hitters, knowing their weaknesses and exploiting those, and staying away from their strengths. Never, always keeping hitters off balance. Always, being able to be that guy that steps on the mound, like, the best pitchers are the ones that turn around and say, "Hey boys, you got the day off. I'm pitching today, so you guys got the day off. Just chill. Give me a couple of runs, but like, you guys can relax out there. You don't have to play. I'm going to strike everybody out." Right? Those kind of, like, the pitchers with that kind of confidence and that kind of stuff. Too many times you get these guys that I think get up there and try to throw the ball through the backstop. They want to hit triple digits on the gun, and that triple digits doesn't always mean that you're going to have success. Paul Skeens is he's not just a 100-mile-an-hour thrower, right? Paul Skeens can pitch. Paul Skeens can place the ball. He's got a nasty slider, and he's somebody that is obviously using all that really well with the Pirates. So you've got to. I think the art of pitching has got to come back to baseball. I don't think I see it enough. You just see these guys with these herky-jerky, robotic, like they all went to the same instructor type windups, and they just fire the ball in there, and they're like, okay, let's try to hit this, right? So instead of hitting 97 on the gun, if you hit 93 but you have great placement, you're probably going to be more effective, right? And one of my favorite baseball players of all time, growing up, now, and forever, is Greg Maddux. And Greg Maddux was the absolute, I mean, he was top of the line. You know, when I say master of pitching, like that might not even do it justice, right? He threw 88 miles an hour. You couldn't touch it. He would often joke, he goes, yeah, I'm going to throw an 89 mile an hour sinker. I'm going to put it right here, and you're not going to touch it. Like, that's the kind of confidence you got to have as a pitcher. And that's the kind of command and kind of, you know, that's what you got to have. And I think that's what these guys have a chance of having because, hey, they're not as talented. You know, like Carter Holton was really talented. Bryce Cunningham, Devin Futrell, they were both, all three of them were really super talented. But I think they kind of lost sight of the art of pitching. And I think these guys have a little bit more grit, and I'm excited to kind of see what they have. But this is a tough league. You know, this, you know, once they get into conference play, this is a tough conference. There are hitters. They are going to get hit, and there are going to be able to do some things. So, you know, this is going to be a fun season, and I'm looking forward to it. And, you know, I'm looking forward to seeing what Jonathan Vastine, he passed up a possible 6th, 7th round draft selection, which would have probably gotten him into AAA, looking for a major league spot coming into this season. But he would be, you know, AA, probably AAA this season, and then be looking next season, be staring at either a September call up to the majors, or, you know, a spot coming into spring training for a legitimate chance at a spot for a major league spot with whatever team he was drafted by. So he passed that up to stay at another season at Vandy. Maybe he gets into that 1st, 2nd, 3rd round where, you know, maybe the transition is not that long. Maybe he goes into AAA for a little bit, gets called up midseason, you know, and goes to the majors. You know, that could change some things. And the leadership he provides, I'm excited about that. So we'll talk more about that on the next episode. But thanks for listening. That's all I got. And we'll leave your comments about what you think about the quarterback situation. Who's going to be the guy who, you know, we know Pavia is the guy, but who's going to be the next guy? Who's going to be the first guy in the portal? What do you think about the situation? Like, who do you think should be quarterback 2? Give me all that in the comments, and I'll see you back here next time. Locked on Vandy. Peace.